First one on public transport, there are two issues I'm particularly concerned about, both of which are personal to me. The first one is the public health crisis caused by air pollution.
Yeah.
And your policy states to help end the public health crisis caused by air pollution by increasing incentives to take diesel vehicles off the road. How does that manifest itself in terms of heavy goods vehicles, vans, and also buses?
So I can answer that on a local level and also about to do with our national policy as well. And then if you'd like to add in with some issues about air pollution, that's fine. You don't have to worry about it. So nationally, we'd like to look at funding a scheme, so increasing vehicle excise duty on new diesel vehicles by I think around £500 it's pledged in our manifesto, so that we can then fund a scheme to help take those old diesel vehicles off the road for people. Because it is unfair on people who were encouraged to buy diesel cars to then be told they'll be penalised for driving those. On the other hand, there is a huge issue with air pollution, particularly in Cambridge, and we do need to look at ways of getting those vehicles off the road. So doing that, increasing vehicle excise duty on new diesel vehicles that are purchased, would enable us to target a scrappage scheme at helping make sure people can get those cars off the road without being penalised financially. How exactly that would work with heavy goods vehicles, I have to say I'm not fully aware. I'm happy to look at that for you. In terms of buses and public transport, it's something we've been focused on a lot, campaigning on recently. Public transport should be a lot better in Cambridge, and our new mayor does now have the power and the authority to re-regulate buses in the same way that London does, for example, which would mean that the mayor can stipulate what kind of buses run on what routes, where they go, what fares they charge, and they could stipulate that in Cambridge they wanted all electric buses or low emissions vehicles, which is possible now because that's happening on a number of routes in London, for example. So we would like to see the mayor use those powers to regulate buses and encourage them to use low emissions or electric vehicles to reduce the amount of air pollution in Cambridge city centre. And actually, nationally, something we would like to see is the power for local authorities to be able to run their own bus companies again, which is something that does happen in a number of cities around the UK, which is very effective, and those services are often more effective than the ones run privately. However, it's currently illegal for local authorities to set up and run those bus services, so we would like to see that law changed so that they could do that, and they could run electric routes which were better for air pollution. Kerry, did you want to say something about air pollution?
Yeah, one of the things that really concerns me about air pollution in Cambridge is that we're building much too close to motorway, and I was really surprised how close the building at Orchard Park is, and also in Trumpington. There's, that it was an agreed plan that they would build up to a certain level, but now the developers have started to put in applications, like the sports village will have 500 homes, and there are other developers who've tried to put in applications on the other side of the road opposite Glebe Farm, and so that would mean there would be housing right up to motorway. And I understand that the research shows that older and younger people suffer quite badly if they're living within a certain level of the motorway. So, I think we need to keep that green belt. So I'm really concerned about planning. So for me, I think that we need to be looking at planning quite a lot in terms of about where we're positioning housing.
Yeah, I think that's important. And nationally also, in the US, they fined those large car manufacturers who cheated their emissions tests. And the equivalent fine in the UK would lead to something like £7 or £8 billion worth of fines. And they should be fined because they've cheated the standards, and that's led to an increase in air pollution, which costs the NHS and costs our local authorities a lot of money. We could then use that money to reinvest in promoting walking and cycling and helping people use those alternative forms of transport which don't contribute to air pollution, which is something we would like to do as well.
Okay, and then on a similar theme, one of the issues that came up just switch the camera around. One of the issues that came up in the mayoral election, you'll be familiar with, was the light rail underground, which the new mayor has mentioned. What is the Green Party's policy on the proposals as put forward by Dr. Colin Harris on the proposed Cambridge light rail underground, given that the research by Smarter Cambridge Transport has basically demonstrated that Cambridge is at peak bus. We can't physically get any more buses into the city centre.
I'll take that first. We recently published a strategic vision for transport in Cambridgeshire and Peterborough before the mayoral election about how we would like the transport system here to look, because we think it could be very much improved to tackle air pollution and improve amounts of walking and cycling. And I do agree, I think The buses could be run a lot more effectively, but as Cambridge is growing, something like 35,000 new homes planned to grow around Cambridge in the coming years, it will definitely, there needs to be a look at a mass transit system to help people get around, and buses probably won't be able to fill that demand completely. We haven't tied ourselves specifically to any one project into saying we back that exact project, but we do believe the idea of a light rail or tram system is something that has merit and should be taken forward. There's been issues when little tram systems have been built in places like Edinburgh recently, for example, which I know wasn't too popular with a lot of people. But in Nottingham, for example, they have a very effective tram system, and it certainly could be something that could be explored in Cambridge. I don't know, well, I'm not an engineer, I don't know about the feasibility of tunnelling and things, but we're happy to support the exploration of that option, and certainly to look at whether it could be a means of meeting the demand for transport, especially as Cambridge continues to grow.